Let's cross to Melbourne now and catch up with Zoe McKenzie, who's the federal Liberal MP for the seat of Flinders that takes in the Mornington Peninsula, southeast of Melbourne. Good to talk to you, Zoe. Tell us, do you have any kind words for Daniel Andrews on his way out?
Oh, so long farewell, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye, have a nice time, and, you know, we look forward to the future. And I hope he has a great future with his family, of course. I mean, he's served the state for a long time, but I'm also excited for what it might mean for Victoria, for what it might mean for my region to have a different style of leadership, a different consideration of the regions and what they need. So fingers crossed that there are good days ahead for Victoria.
Melbourne and Victoria are pretty battered by the COVID response. You feel that when you're in the city, you see it. And of course, you only have to look at the budget to see the enormous debt that the state's going to carry into the future. Whoever takes over, probably Jacinta Collins, we believe, has got a hell of a job to turn the state around.
Yeah, Jacinta Allan, actually, and she does. And of course, she's been the minister responsible for the Commonwealth Games, the minister responsible for many of the major projects that have broken the bounds of what they were meant to cost. So she doesn't start with a sort of clean bill of good management in her portfolios to date. But again, new start, fingers crossed. You're right, they do start with more debt than any other state. In fact, I think the public debt is greater than New South Wales, Queensland and Tasmania combined. So we really do start in a difficult position. We start with a broken reputation in terms of being a good place to invest. So it's got a long way to go to get back to the great Victorian state that we were some time ago. We've got a lot of investment. I need a lot of investment in my area. We have $320 million sitting in this Albanese government review. And if we lose it, we will lose it precisely because the Victorian government didn't do their part. We've had roads fully funded for improvement, really dangerous roads and intersections, and the Victorian government has just refused to roll a truck. Right, the money is there, they've refused to roll the truck, and now we might lose that money. And those projects exist all over this state precisely because the Victorian government under Dan Andrews didn't do their job.
All right, thanks for the name check there. Jacinta Allan likely to be Premier, depending on what happens with those Labor factions over the next 24 hours. Let me just show you a little bit of what Prime Minister Anthony Albanese had to say today about Dan Andrews.
Daniel Andrews has never been anyone who has shirked his responsibilities. He stood up each and every day during the pandemic, stood up for doing what he believed was absolutely right to keep Victorians safe, not making easy decisions, making difficult decisions.
Yeah, there he is. But the point is, when we see what Daniel Andrews did to the population during the pandemic, and we know how draconian and unnecessary much of it was, schools shut for so long, the medical advice doesn't support that, curfews where there was no medical advice for them, playgrounds and skate parks shut down. Can you explain to us why Victorians were drawn to him electorally?
Look, it's really important for us all to look back on that period and understand how and why it happened. 262 days, the longest lockdown anywhere in the world, with frankly inhumane conditions. You know, you couldn't go and play on the swings and the slides. You couldn't go and buy things from Bunnings to do your garden, right? Gardening was all we kind of had to do for a while there. You couldn't go to a bookshop and buy a book. It was just absurd. And of course, the Prime Minister's given him a leave pass now. So there'll be no investigation into the decisions made of state governments and particularly the quite bizarre ones we endured down here. You've got kids who are still coming out of that pandemic time in terms of their sociability, their comfort in life, their confidence in themselves. You've got small businesses still struggling to get back on their feet. Some of the towns in my area, they're still, probably 1 in 5 shops is still closed. Small business has been hard hit, not just by the pandemic, but all the taxes that have followed, payroll taxes, land tax, making it really hard for people to get back on their feet at the same time as they're being smashed by cost of living pressures.
Yeah, we've got to have a proper inquiry into all of this nationally and state by state. But to what degree do the Liberals in Victoria have to bear the responsibility for Daniel Andrews' ascendancy? They never held him to account, haven't really been able to put up an alternative plan at elections. The onus is really on them now. Surely is their opportunity now to get their act together.
Yeah, it really is. It's a really important opportunity for the Liberal Party in Victoria. I would counsel them, the old adage in politics, unity and discipline, unity and discipline, unity and discipline. Voters judge you really harshly when you're focused on yourselves. You must be focused on them. The opposition appears to be working quite diligently. They had a great turnaround in Warrandyte, a 10-point lift, I think it was, in the primary. Good start, more to do, but unity and discipline each and every day. To be fair to Dan Andrews, he did nail that, right? He was a consummate politician, unity and discipline in his ranks every day. Our guys down here need to be the same.
Yeah, very good politician implementing the wrong policies so often. Thanks for joining us, Zoe. I appreciate your time.